All right, that looks like everyone was able to join, so I just wanted to go ahead and get started. So thank you for joining the Phi Kappa Psi migration webinar today. Before we jump in, I do want to point out there's a questions chat box that you should see, and we want to make sure that it's working properly. So if you will add a quick bit of information, such as your first and last name, what chapter you're with, so we can ensure that it's working properly, and my co-host can look out for questions throughout the webinar and get them answered for you. So if you'll take a moment to do that, and then we will move on in. Today's presenters, my name is Carrie Freiler. I'm a migration specialist, and my co-host today is Hannah Gunderson, is also a migration specialist. So she's going to be looking out for those questions in the chat box. And just for a quick moment, I'm actually going to turn it over to her for a bit of information about who LegFi is, and then we're going to move into the agenda today.
Hi, everyone. So for more than 30 years, LegFi has provided technology solutions to help our customers manage their finances, streamline their operations, recruit new members, and communicate with their members. Whether it's working with 57 different headquarters or local chapters, house corporations, IFC and Panhellenic councils, and alumni associations across more than 650 campuses, we remain the industry leader when it comes to technology in the fraternity and sorority community. Based out of Columbus, Georgia, we securely process more than $1.1 million per day for our clients and have securely processed more than $4 billion since 1992. We're also deeply committed to serving, promoting, and advocating and advancing the fraternity and sorority experience. We aim to make raving fans with each individual we work with by reaching, innovating, and acting with agility. We challenge ourselves to dream big each and every day and help others achieve their own dreams as well. To say we're passionate about what we do is definitely an understatement, and it's this passion that has encouraged our clients to trust us to do the heavy lifting so they can focus on their mission and having fun.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. All right, so for today's webinar agenda, the first thing we're going to talk about is know the lingo. And then I'm going to move into a quick LegFi demo. And then towards the end, we will have some questions that you guys put into the chat and then get some answers to those if you have any. So we will go ahead and move on to the next slide for know the lingo. All right, so this is migration. So you are used to Vault and you are now moving into LegFi. Well, the information is a little bit different than what you're used to. So we have set up a couple of, or not a couple, excuse me, a few main items that you're used to seeing in Vault and what that is going to look like in LegFi. So I'm just going to run through these really quick, and then when we do the demo, we'll actually go a little bit deeper into what they actually are and what that looks like. So for Vault side of things, you're used to a member status, so that your alumni, your new members, that is actually now going to be referred to as membership type in LegFi. Billing group in Vault, so those billing groups that you created to bill your members, whether they're in-house, out-of-house, if they're an officer or they have a new member payment plan or anything like that, billing groups are now going to be referred to as groups in LegFi. The billing tab that you as an officer are used to going into and looking at your billing and looking at your billing roster and anything that has to do with statements to your members and financials, it's now going to be located under the invoices tab. Registers in Vault, so where you could go and view any external bank account registers if you linked those up in Vault or a LegFi account, or even your bill pay registers, is now going to be located under financial accounts. Bill pay funds, as Phi Kappa Psi, you all are used to your national dues and fees bill pay funds. You may or may not have operating bill pay funds. These are now going to be called treasury accounts. Associated with bill pay funds in Vault, you had what we called officer purchasing cards, the prepaid debit cards. That is now going to be called a treasury card in LegFi. And then that donation form, so the contributions donation form, if you had any alumni that needed to make donations, you could create that form in Vault. That is now going to be the events or fundraisers in LegFi. So these are some of the main items that you'll want to take a screenshot of this, and we can send this to you if you need to. You can just reach out and we can get you this Know the Lingo slide. That way you can familiarize yourself with what it was in Vault and then what you're going to be looking for that matches that in LegFi. All right, so this is LegFi. As Phi Kappa Psi migration chapters, your LegFi accounts were created last Tuesday, so you should have received an email to log in. So when you log in with your exact same username and password as what you were using in Vault, so it should have been a smooth transition for you. This is what you should be seeing. We'll give or take the information because this is a test account we're using, but this is what LegFi looks like. This is what we call the dashboard. So I'm going to go over a couple of pieces here. First off, I'm going to start by these are your menus. On the left, you're used to in Vault going from left to right at the top, but now the menus are located here on the left side of your screen. Some similar icons up here, and we'll talk about a couple of those in a moment, but let's talk about these little widgets here. So your dashboard is essentially a general overview of the account. So you'll see some pie graphs, bars. This is essentially showing you all outstanding cash from invoices, whether they're past due, future, or current. So this gives you a little graph here. This particular cash flow, this is going to show you if you utilize putting in and bringing in your expenses versus your revenue. This is going to be a graph that kind of shows you the cash flow with those two revenue and expense accounts. Invoices paid section here, this is essentially what you have invoiced. So the gray reflects invoices that you've created for your members. And then the green, as your members make payments, it will fill in these bar graphs for each month of what you collected on the invoices invoiced within that month. The member payment section here is pretty simple. It's just going to give you a date of who paid, how they paid, and the amount. And then you can get some more details on the payment made. This account section is going to just give you a general quick overview of all the accounts that you have added to your LegFi account, whether those are external bank accounts or if you're utilizing treasury accounts, you will see and have quick access to those accounts on your dashboard. I'm going to scroll back up to the top here. This little section here, so this is going to be where you will view your headquarter invoices. So if you owe headquarters an invoice, you will be able to see that invoice here and you'll be able to make a payment. This actually flip-flops with another widget. So if you don't owe any invoices, this may disappear. And then what it will be replaced with is, if I can get it to scroll down, is this members section here. It's just a quick general overview of how many members you have, anybody that you've added new within the last 12 months or archived. All right, a couple of the main icon that I want to point out here today is this gear icon, which this is your manage organization settings. So what this is when this is just your organization information, essentially. You may see some fields here that you don't see when you log in. That's just because this is a test account, and because I'm on the Omega Phi side of things, I have a little bit more access. But generally, it's going to give you your organization information, mailing addresses, this accounting information. As migrating chapters, you are going to want to look in here and make sure that this migrated correctly. Again, y'all's part one, your LegFi accounts were created last Tuesday, so it's very important that you're logging in. You should have received an email last week letting you know that it was ready to go, and you'll want to come out here and make sure that the accounting type, whether that's cash or accrual, and your fiscal year is correct. If anything needs editing, you can do that. Let us know. We can help you, and then you can update the settings. Also within organization settings, I'm going to point out this billing menu. or billing tab. So this is super important too, and it's got a good bit of information. So this is really about your subscription fees and kind of how they work. So this is going to show you exactly what your chapter is being billed subscription fee wise for LegFi. The amount is in the order form that you signed. So if you have any questions, you can refer back to the order form, or you can reach out to one of your migration specialists and we can help determine that. But you should see that amount there on your account when you log in. So with the billing subscription, this is very important because this is what you are billed for per your member roster. And we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the members tab. But this is where you can see what you're being billed. And this is also where you will see what account we are taking that payment from. So this is your payment method. Most of them will probably be an external bank account. And so that is what's going to be set as the default payment method. Unless you don't have an external bank account, then you will create treasury accounts and we can set it up for that. This menu is very important for you to go out here and make sure you familiar yourself with your subscription fee so you'll know what you're paying for LegFi. The last menu I'm going to talk about in organization settings is permissions. So this is very similar to the vault access, if you will, but this is called permissions in LegFi. This is where you're going to go in and edit anybody that needs access to LegFi. A couple pieces here. If they are listed as admin, you select this little toggle button to turn it to green, and that essentially gives this user read and write access to all of these menus here. So basically that manage access that you're used to as officers. They can do and see everything. If they don't need access to everything, instead of hitting this toggle button, you'll simply hit edit, and you can determine which menu they need read access only to, meaning view it. They can see anything, but they can't do anything with it. Or edit, meaning they can make changes and enter invoices depending on the menu that you're giving them that access to. So this is the permissions of where you will go in, especially for officers or any type of contact, finance advisor, or somebody like that that needs access to your LegFi account. All right, so from organization settings, we're going to move down to the members tab. So the members tab is essentially a roster of everybody in your chapter. Whether not they're being billed, being invoiced or not, they're going to be listed here. So that is very important. As migration chapters, back in the kickoff call, if you have or had not had one, we mentioned that cleanup needs to take place in Vault. So it's super important that you clean up your roster in Vault, especially before next Tuesday. That way, anybody that we do not need to create a record for, you can archive them in Vault, and then they won't be listed here and possibly billed for subscription fees. So there's no such thing as active or inactive billing statuses anymore. You're either on the LegFi roster or you're not. So whoever's listed here is what you're going to be billed a subscription fee for. So super important to clean up that Vault account roster before next Tuesday. If you need somebody to a couple of different things with what you're used to in Vault, you could not you could archive members in Vault. You can no longer archive members in LegFi. So if you do need to remove somebody from your roster in LegFi, you do have to email softwaresupport@omegafi.com, which will give you that information via email. But you'll email us and we will archive the member for you. You can actually view your archive member list in LegFi now. And if you happen to have somebody that you archived and say they come back, one cool feature is you can unarchive them. So you can't archive them, but you can unarchive them. And then the collections menu here is just if you're utilizing collections in LegFi, it's going to list out who you have turned over. We'll go back to the active roster here. A couple of different things. You can click on the individual member to pull up their member information, make any edits, and view their member contact. You got a couple of different actions button here. You will see archive here in this webinar. However, you will not see that on your screen. Again, that's something that you do not have access to. So if you see something in here today and you don't see it on yours, it just means you probably don't have access to it. So I just want to point that out. But these are a couple of different things you can do in the member roster. Add charges, you can record a payment, edit their permissions from here as well, so that specific person, and then text them if you need to. To add a member, it's very similar to what it was in Vault. You'll click Add Member. You can do the multiple spreadsheet, and this gives you the step-by-step of what that needs to look like in order to import a file, or you can add a single member. Contacts. So this is just a list of if you have any finance advisors, chapter consultants, if you work with an accountant, if they need access to your LegFi account, you can add them as a contact. And again, it's simple as just click the add button and then add their information, and they will be able to create username and password and log in. And depending on the type of permissions you give that contact, again, will determine what type of access they have to the menus. Also in the member tabs, the last thing we'll talk about is manage groups. So this is where we talked about in the Know Your Lingo, billing groups are now called groups. So you can add as many new groups as you see fit, whatever works for your chapter on how you differentiate who your members are. You can add new groups here. And one cool thing about LegFi is you can throw one person in 5 different billing groups. So there's a lot of flexibility with the groups. So play around with that when you get logged in and see what works best for you. So you could add as many as you want or have as little as you need. And then people can be in more than one if they need to be. Here are membership types. This is that alum, deceased, new member with Phi Kappa Psi headquarters having their own account. These will probably be exactly the same as what you're used to in Vault, so this would not be editable for you. It's set by headquarters, so that's you'll select the people, the membership type, so that should be something very similar to what you're used to. Roles is essentially an officer title, so you can add a role for whatever your officer positions are and throw people into that position. And then you can view the assigned roles here of who you've assigned a role. All right, the next tab we're going to look at is invoices. So in Vault, you're used to statement billing. Well, now it's going to be invoiced billing. A lot more freedom with invoices billing. So this invoice tab dashboard, what you're looking at here is going to give you a quick overview of all of your current and past due invoices. So in Vault, they were past due, pending past due, severely past due, and then a couple of other ones. Well, in Vault or LegFi, they go by the 30, 60, 90 plus day rule, which I think a lot of people like a little bit better. So that should be a little bit easier for you guys. So this is going to show you who is past due and at what stage they are. Again, this is the same little section as what you saw on the dashboard earlier. Quick overview of any invoices that you have sent out, whether they are already sent or future. And then each month, as the payments are collected, that green color will fill in for that. Down here is a section for all of your outstanding invoices, and it is color-coded, which is really nice. So if they're past due, they're going to be red. Any current invoices that you've created, so you've sent them out, but they're not quite due yet, will be in this green. And then if you set something for a future date, you'll see that blue color means future. So this is going to show any outstanding invoices. The all section is literally going to be everything past due, current, or future, paid, or deleted. So you do have the option to delete invoices. So that's going to show here in the all section along with every other status an invoice can be. And then again, the deleted is essentially just going to show you deleted invoices. So if you accidentally deleted something, or it just gives you a quick overview of what you deleted so you can refer back to if you need it. This HQ member charges, this is where you're going to be able to see what headquarters has invoiced your members directly. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that is where you can see that at any time. All right, let's create an invoice. To create an invoice, super simple, click Create Invoice. Section 1 is you're going to select your members to bill. So you can do a couple different things. You can filter it by group or membership type, or you can simply come in and add your members as you are going down the roster. Super simple to remove. You can remove all or use the plus and minus button to add or remove them, however you need as you're setting these up. Section 2 is where you're going to add your charges. So you'll simply select Add Charge. And then you're going to fill out the information. So we're going to do this. First, we're going to do, so you'll be a charge title. So we're going to do chapter dues and fees. This section here is going to say copy an existing charge. So as you use LegFi, it's probably going to be blank right now, but the system is going to start remembering your charges that you put in. So this is just a quick and easy way that if you're going out here, you pulled somebody up, you need to bill them. You know you've already billed chapter dues and fees once, so you can pre-select it and it'll fill out the information. And then obviously if you needed to edit, you can. But that's just a quick to kind of essentially copy a charge if you've already billed that charge. But we're going to pretend that we don't have that and do it as a first timer. The next section is reoccurring charge or one time. So it does give you the option. I want to show you what reoccurring charge looks like first, because this is essentially kind of how in Vault you're used to creating those cycles. This is essentially how you would do that in LegFi. So a reoccurring charge is where if you've got that monthly rent payment, you can come out here and set up the custom billing reoccurring charge. So you'll do it for the months. And then you'll just continue to add additional charge cycles. So if you've got somebody paying that rent, again, this is an easy way to go ahead and get that set up for each month. So you'll set up the current and then any future, however many you need. But we are going to do just a one-time charge for the webinar today. So the one-time charge of chapter dues and fees, you're going to give it a description. The description can be whatever you want it to be. So this is going to be for us today, fall 2024 local dues. The amount is going to be $100. You do have the option, so if you've got a lot of people in your group and it's not just one person, you can come out here and say you have an officer in here and they get a little discount, right off the bat. You can come in and edit that amount for them, but we're just going to set $100 for everyone that we have added to this invoice here. You're going to select the default financial account. So you can either select an external bank account, or if you have treasury accounts, you can do that. One cool thing about LegFi is every single invoice you create, you can determine where the money is going to be directly deposited. So every invoice can have a different deposit account that it's going into, which is awesome flexibility, especially for budgeting purposes. For today's purpose, we don't have any external accounts because this is a test account and we don't have any banks. So we're just going to choose a treasury account today. So the operating, we're going to give it a revenue category. So chapter dues and fees. And I want this to go out on August 1st. And I want it to be due by the 20th. One thing about LegFi and the invoices is you do have the freedom to bill when you need, so you can send out same day. So there's no more restrictions in terms of this, 14 business days, this, that, and the other. You can put in these dates as you feel necessary for cash flow for your chapter. So with the active and due date set, you do have options for late fees and early payment discounts for each invoice as well. So for today's purpose, we're going to give them a $10 late fee if they do not pay this invoice by the 25th. So the option for the early payment discount, you can give them whatever amount you want, and then if they pay in full, maybe within 10 days instead of 20 days of the day that the invoice is sent. So we're going to leave it like that, and we're going to save the charge. So here's our charge. If you need to add more charges, you can. You just simply keep going through the motions and this fields that it populates for you. The section 3 is add a message. So this is whatever message you want. This is going to appear at the bottom of that invoice when it's delivered. So this is essentially a statement message, an invoice message. So if you want to put thank you for your prompt payment, if you have any questions, please reach out to Adam and then give maybe that treasury office or email. Or if you don't have that, whatever information you want to show on the invoice as a message, you can put in this box. We're going to preview, so obviously you would hit send to send the invoices, but it's not going to send in a test. So I'm going to show you what the invoice looks like, and you do have this option every time just to make sure everything looks good. You can preview the invoice before you send it. So this is what an invoice is going to look like, and this is what they'll see when they receive it via email. All statements in LegFi are digital invoices, so they will go out on the date that you set the invoice, and then reminders are sent twice a month, and they're sent on the 3rd and the 15th of each month. There is an option for paper statements that I'll show you where that's located a little later on. That is an additional cost though, but just keep in mind all LegFi invoices are digital. So this is what one looks like, pretty simple. It's going to give their name, their account number, and then what charge they were billed. And here is that late fee. I love these invoices because the late fees show up in red, and then if it's that early discount, it actually shows up in green. So they have very easy on the eyes, so they'll know like, okay, this is a late fee, it's red. So if I don't pay by the 25th, I don't have, I won't have that $10 late fee. But this is what an invoice looks like. There are two ways to make a payment essentially. So the member themselves can sign in, meaning they'll sign in using their username and password, and they can make payments by debit or credit card or an e-check. Or if this is going to a parent, they have the parent email address on file, which is a lot of the times the case. The parents or guardians, whoever's making this payment, that they're receiving this invoice because their email has been put into the member's account, they can continue as guest. And continuing as a guest is a pretty cool feature because the system picks up on that email address and like verifies it behind the scenes, and they don't have to have a username and password to log in. So that's super simple for parents who are paying. They can simply continue as guest, and it'll prompt them to make the payment. The only thing is it has to be with a debit or credit card. They cannot use an e-check with the continuous guest. So if you want to pay by e-check, you actually do have to sign in with the username and password. But two different ways, pretty cool and quick and easy for your members. So this is what your invoices are going to look like. All right, so we will move on to the payments. This is essentially just a dashboard of income and payment status. So records of where all your money is coming in from for members at any given time. These, you can record payments here, you can filter it out. It's really just information for you at a glance for payments received. All right, financial accounts menu. This is where you will view all of your financial accounts, whether that's a treasury account or an external bank account, and this is where you will add them. So you received last week an email as migration chapters, your part one, that account was created. So now it is time, if you have not already done so, is to add that external bank account and or treasury account so we can continue with your migration process for next week. This is where you'll do that. There are steps that were in that email that was sent out last week, but if you need further steps or reminders, you can always reach out to your migration specialist, and our information will be at the end of this webinar on a slide that you can take a quick screenshot of. But it's pretty easy just to add the bank account. This is where you'll be prompted to complete KYC, know your customer, and get that everything verified for payments and deposits. Same with adding the treasury account, super simple. Treasury accounts, what you're used to, also known as bill pay funds back in Vault. Treasury accounts, you can have as many as you want. They are at no additional cost. And along with the treasury accounts, you can have treasury cards. You can view the transactions with this being a test account. Unfortunately, I do not have any way to show you transactions on treasury accounts, but it's very simple. You just click view and it pulls up a register essentially of all the transactions that were made in and out of that treasury account. Same with the external accounts. But with the treasury accounts are the treasury cards. So you can view the treasury cards. Treasury cards, you can have as many as you want to. They are also at no additional cost. You simply add a card holder. One really awesome feature with the treasury cards is there's two different options for them. You can send a physical card, so they'll get that card in the mail after you add the card holder, set up their spending limit, and send them that email that they will receive and fill out their information. And then after that information is submitted, they will receive that physical card in the mail, just like they did with those officer purchasing cards. The second card type is actually a virtual card. So you can opt to send them a virtual card. So once again, you'll add the card holder. You'll choose the member. You'll choose the card type, so whether it's virtual or physical. With the virtual, it's going to send them a virtual card, and they can download it into their wallet on their iPhones. Apple Pay, Google Pay, whatever they use, they can download that virtual card, which is really cool. You will want to set a spending limit. There's a couple of different options for the spending limit. So as you're adding the card holder, it does take you through all of these steps so you don't forget anything. But you can set spending limits, and whether they are daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, or at all time. And then once you've done that, you'll just agree and hit next, and then it will send that member the email to receive their card. And then again, you can view the card transactions. If anything happens, you can dispute it, and everything is held within these financial accounts when you click on the actual treasury account and or card information. You can also do same-day transfers, very similar to what was taking place in Vault. You can transfer funds back and forth. The treasury accounts, the funds go, I'm pretty sure, the same day. And then if you're transferring money to external accounts, the longest it is that 2 business day for ACH transfer. So you still have the option to transfer funds if you need to. All right, transactions. Transactions is very similar to the payments. It's just giving you information. It's a running log of any attached accounts. So it's going to give you income accounts, receipts, disbursements, and then any expenses as well if you're using treasury or if you connect to bank accounts. So this is going to give you, this is where you can basically keep a running register of all of your income and expenses. And you can export it if you need it. So budgets. The budget is pretty It's a pretty simple budget. It's actually really nice. It's very simple to use. This is going to give you a general overview of your budget, revenue overview, and expense. So you'll see here we don't have anything budgeted. Well, this is a test account, so hopefully yours will actually look a little prettier than this. It'll be nice and colored. To manage the budget, you'll simply click Manage Budget, and you can filter the results however you need to, but you'll simply come out here and just click what month, if you're budgeting by month, or if you do the first of the semester, spring term, and then fall term, however your chapter budgets, it's pretty easy just to come out here and click in each individual revenue and expense categories and manage that. You will notice the manage chart of accounts here. That is not something that you will see as a FI chapter. That is something that's still going to be held by headquarters. So your chart of accounts are probably going to be pretty similar to what you're used to. So you'll see those revenue and expense accounts that you're already seeing, and that will be set by headquarters. So you'll simply come out here and use what is provided. All right, we'll move into collections. So a couple of options for collections in LegFi. Before it gets to that, actual submitting an account to collections, you do have a couple of options to help get some of that cash in that you're having trouble. In the options of past due emails, it's essentially a email reminder. It's not editable, it's already pre-selected. You'll just select the members you want to email, and then you'll submit that, and then they'll get this past due reminder that they need to log in and make a payment for their past due invoice. They also have the option of past due calls. So this is essentially going to be a kind of like a robocall. You can't call it back. It's just saying this is a friendly reminder and then it'll have your chapter's information that your balance is past due and to make a payment. So two different options before you get to the big bad option of submitting an account to collections. LegFi does use a completely different collections agency than what was used in Vault. So for migration purposes, if you had accounts in collections in Vault, those are canceled. And so you've got two options for collections. You can either write it off and you're never going to get the money, or you can, if there is some money that you sent to collections, we had to cancel them, but you really, really want to get that cash from them, you can add that turned over amount back to their Vault account. We'll create a record for them and an invoice for whatever that amount was. And then in 30 days, you can submit their invoice in LegFi to collections. Once you submit a member to collections in LegFi, it is between you and the collection agency and the member. So collections works a little bit differently in LegFi than you're used to in Vault. If you have any questions, reach out to your migration specialist and we can go through that in a little bit more detail. But there is that option still. All right, communication. So this is a communication tab. There's a lot of information in here. You can text your members. So it sends a broadcast, an SMS text message to a group of whoever, and then you can create the text that you want. Same with emails. If you want to send a mass email to a group or a selection of members, you can do that as well and attach documents. You can create surveys to send to your members. Shared documents, this is very similar to the resources tab in Vault. So this is where any of your shared documents that you want to show all of your members, they can log in, and most of your members will have access to the communications menu, so they'll be able to see those shared documents that you've shared with them. For migration purposes, this is where your member contracts were set or migrated over to. So we created a folder for all of your member contract documents here in this shared documents folder. Communications log, I'm going to click in because this is actually pretty cool. This is where you can go in and see every bit of communication, whether it was a text message, an email, an invoice, whatever the case may be, this is where you can see that log. When it was sent, what type it was, who you sent it to, and essentially if they got it. It doesn't look like that right here, but it'll show you on your board whether that member received that particular communication, if they opened it, if it bounced. So it's a really cool bit of information just to ensure that your members are being communicated to and they're receiving that type of communication that you're sending. Here is your send e-statement. Again, all statements in LegFi are digital, and then reminders are sent automatically on the 3rd and the 15th of each month. But if you do need to send additional, you can do that here. The calendar option is where you'll create your events to share with your members, and you can sync that with your Google Calendars. Contracts and on-demand paper statements. So these last two options in the communications menu, these are fees are associated with these. Sorry, lost the word that I wanted to use. So contracts is essentially very similar to vault contract management. LegFi uses Sign Now. So if you've got one of those legally binding contracts, or you have a house, you're doing rent, and you need to create a contract, you can do that here. Contracts in LegFi are $1 per contract sent. So whether they sign it or not, if you send a contract to somebody, you'll be billed $1, and that actually goes to that subscription fee account that you've set up here when you set up the subscription fees. So that is an option to use. And then here is where you can send paper statements. So if you have somebody that just absolutely has to have a paper statement, LegFi does have that option to send them a US mail paper statement. Keep in mind that it is $1.50, and again, that will automatically be billed to your LegFi subscription account for each paper statement that is sent. So that is the communications. A lot of options here that are really cool. The reports menu. So very simple reports, financial reports. They're all exportable. So these are your financial reports. And then user reports. So we got a couple of member reports, and then you can kind of create like a custom, essentially, like whatever information you're needing here. So that's the reports. And the last thing we'll talk about in the tour here is crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is essentially kind of the that donations page as you're used to, but a lot more flexibility and options here in LegFi. So the two different options first are events and or fundraisers. You'll simply create an online registration page for your next event, and people can make payments. You can set up tickets. You can set, so we've got a few here. That makes it really pretty to create a new event. You'll simply create a new one, upload images, fill in the event details. You can add locations to these, so it actually pre-populates a map to make it easy for the people that are attending to locate the event. You can create custom URLs, a couple of additional settings, and each event you can put into a default deposit financial account. So again, just like your invoices, you can select these events to go into whatever account, whether it's an external bank account or a treasury account that you choose to do so. And then just some ticket information on the events. You can give them the names, a couple different types here with the prices, and then you'll create your event. And then it'll look like this. And so that custom URL that you create, that's where you can email that, or you can set it on a social media page so people will know that you've got this event, and if they can or want to attend, they can purchase a ticket for. And this is where you'll come out here and then just kind of keep track of what's going on with that event. Fundraisers is Very similar to the event, except it's a fundraiser. There's not tickets involved. You're essentially raising money. Again, we've got a few out here. Same similar actions, share URLs, invite guests, or if you need to suspend it. To create a new fundraiser, you'll simply create that. Again, the details, custom URL, set up some donation options, so one time, reoccurring, or both. Again, select that financial account you want it to go to, which is super nice. And then it's just going to give a that bar once you start that campaign. Let me go back here. It's going to give you a cool little bar graph here of how much you've raised and whatever your total amount was. So it'll give you a general overview of what all has happened since active. So you can have as many events and or fundraisers going on at one time. All right, so that is actually a quick tour in LegFi. Before we move on to some questions, I do want to go over just a few more items specific to the migration, since you all are pilot chapters of the Phi Kappa Psi migration. Make sure, if you have not already, communicate to your members that you're moving to LegFi and when that's going to take place. They do need to be on the lookout for logins. They will get a login email 2 days after that migration date. And for you guys, that's next Tuesday. So your members will get an email to log in, and they will use the exact same username and password as they were for their MyMegaFi accounts. They'll get that on Thursday. Migration specialist, me, Hannah, and Sarah Beth, will send emails to you to remind you of these things, but I wanted to make this a point in this webinar today. So communicate to your members. Make sure that all of your member balances are cleaned up per the checklist that you received in the kickoff call. If you have not had your kickoff call yet, or if you have not scheduled it, please do so, because your part 2 of your migration is taking place next week. So those of you that have already done that or have logged in because you've received that email we sent last week, please go into Vault and update those member accounts and member balances. Make sure that they're cleaned up. That way, when all of your member information is ready to migrate next week, it is pretty and ready to go. Because again, whoever is on your roster in Vault come next Tuesday, or really Monday night, we are going to create a record for. And that's what's going to be on your roster in LegFi. And that's what we're going to be billing you for your subscription fees come the time that is ready to go, sometime in August. Last 2 things. I mentioned at the beginning of the LegFi demo, and I think you can still see my screen here, the alpha beta headquarter invoices. So headquarters actually is going to determine on how they're going to bill the invoices, either directly to the chapter, you as the whole chapter, or if they're going to bill invoices directly to the members. But however they choose to do so, it will be in your LegFi account for you to see and pay. And this is actually going to include currently owed invoices and any new invoices upcoming for the new semester. And then the last thing I want to point out is that you may have heard me mention earlier in the financial accounts is that KYC, the Know Your Customer, and the bank account setup. So it's super important right now that you guys log in to your newly created LegFi account, add that external bank account or treasury account, complete that KYC. It is a 2-step process. Follow the steps, and then setting up your soft descriptor, also known as doing business as. This is essentially what is going to be displayed on the transaction statements of when your members make a payment. They're going to know that they paid your chapter. So very important that you guys go in and complete that step. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to your migration specialist. Again, in just a moment, I will have our contact information on the screen for you to take a screenshot of. for now, I'm going to reach out to Hannah to see if she has any questions for me.
Yeah, we had one question, and they were just wondering what the members' accounts are going to look like, what they're going to log into, if it's like, will they have like an equivalent of like a My LegFi account, or is it all just in
Okay.
LegFi?
Yeah. So
Mhm,
let's log in as a member here. We are able to do this because we are super users,
mhm,
as in working with Omega So y'all won't
mhm.
have the option to do this, but this is what it's going to look like. Let's see here.
Oh yeah, that
Here we go.
looked right.
I think it's working
Mhm.
for me.
I saw it collapse on the side.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is what Winston sees. He is just a plain Jane user. Well, he's got a little bit of access here, but you'll notice his tabs here on the left drastically decreased. So again, with the permissions that you set, like he doesn't have access to the gear icon or anything like that. But this is his dashboard. So when your members log in, it's going to look very similar to what you log in as an admin, just depending on those permissions that you give them is what they're going to see. And then this is where they'll be able to see that they have any amounts owed to those invoices and then all of their charges down here that are outstanding or future, and then any sort of account history and payment history. So,
Carrie, since you're here, this wasn't a question, but I think it's cool to show them. If you click make a payment, can you show them what their different invoices will look like and how they
yes.
can pay on those? Hmm.
So this is make a payment. So essentially, it's going to automatically pre-fill for all of the invoices. However, they do have the option to deselect if they need to, so they can just pay the one. And then the payment amount. So this tells you exactly what the invoice is, the amount is, and
Hmm.
then they can edit that amount for however this guy has a lot of invoices. And he is severely past due, but a lot of flexibility here on how they can make a payment, and making sure that they're paying maybe the oldest, not necessarily future, but and then again it
Hmm.
gives you a quick glance of what's past due, so he can make sure he's getting that old debt paid out
Hmm.
first. And then he'll simply enter his payment information and make that payment.
Perfect. Thank you, Carrie. I think that was our only question.
Okay. I will point out, I mentioned in the migration reminders really quick, auto pay and saved payment information is not migrating over. So as your members are logging in, when they get that email on Thursday of next week, and they log in, this is where they can go in and enable that auto pay. So if your chapter requires them to have auto pay or is something that they like, this is where they will go to do that. Any other questions, Hannah, or did you say that was
Mm-mm.
it? That
That
was it?
is it. Hmm.
Okay, so let me pop up this really quick. This is our contact information. So for the remainder of the migration, this is how you will email us. And we've already emailed most of you. So if you have that email inboxed, or if you can't remember the email, here it is. Take a screenshot of this page. It's getStarted@omegafi.com. You can give us a call. And we can schedule a call if you need to, but this is how you get in touch with us. So please copy down this information. And thank you for joining today. We look forward to continuing the process of this migration, and be on the lookout for some more emails for part 2 next week. Everyone have a great evening.